Thursday Night Football is upon us. Seahawks-Cardinals. It's going to be a fun one here to kick off week 4. We're going to do the process we love to do here on Splash Play. Of course, for our Mondays and our Thursday showdown slates, we're going to dig in and compare projections and ownership projections from our friends over at Stochastic. We'll hop over to the solver, see what ETR thinks about the data, what the cash game optimal lineup will be, and of course, some overarching trends and lineups. We'll run some sims on there, run some sims on Stochastic. I'll build a hand-build lineup. By in this video, you'll know all the must-plays along with my splash plays for today's slate. And of course, 3 ways to get unique too. But let's get into it here and hope it's off. Hope the week's off to a good start for you guys. As I mentioned on the Stochastic strategy show this morning, I am in some form of tech hell lately. Lost all my photos on my iCloud because even though I've been paying for iCloud backup, I got a new iPhone, transitioned to the new iPhone, and a backup of just my iCloud backup apparently doesn't include your images. So I lost them all, reset the other phone way too quickly, and now I've lost 7 years of my life in photo history. And as you guys know, my life is so glamorous, so luxurious here. But really, it is one of those things where I'm saying this mostly as a warning to you guys out there because they do not make it as idiot-proof as it used to be. And I'm not a boomer, though this does make me feel like a boomer. But it is one of those things where, like, really bummed me out last night. You know, today is still kind of a bummer just because it's meeting my wife. It's my dog's lives. It's my child's first 3 years of life. I had to go through old iMessages to kind of get some of the images I've taken. But really be careful with your iPhone upgrades because Apple is a stupid company. It is not as good as it used to be. Man, that sucks. I appreciate that. I appreciate the support here as always. First time catching a live. Appreciate that, Jeremiah, too. TX Politics here. Justin here. Shout out to all you guys hanging out live here and giving me a 1.5 minute here up top to bitch about my life. My wired connection, too, is also down. So if this video is a little bit lower quality than usual, I apologize. We were on straight Wi-Fi today. But let's get into the slate here. We've got JSN, your top projected guy in the slate, 21.4 fantasy points for him, and 11K salary, your highest price guy in the slate as well. JSN has been a target monster to start the year, 43.3% target route run for him. He's not been super efficient, though. At that level of volume, it's fine. 0.27 EPA per target for him is about where you'd expect a guy like JSN in a not crazy offense to be. He's also getting 2.3 deep targets a game, but only 0.7 red zone targets a game, so not fantastic touchdown equity for JSN, at least in terms of the repeatable things. But JSN really is the first player you think about in the slate. Trey McBride's the thumbnail. He's the second with an 18.2 projection. But on this slate, it does seem like you have JSN being so highly projected that he should make his way into a good amount of lineups. And I really think a lot of lineups today, when people are building, we're going to begin with JSN, going to begin with Trey McBride. Does that make your quarterbacks more appealing? Does it make your secondary receivers more appealing? Maybe. I think you're going to have some pivots potentially for JSN if you want to go to Cooper Kupp's way, if you want to go to Torrey Horton's way, where I'm not sure if he's going to hear a who. I especially am not sure he's going to hear 2 touchdowns again. But Torrey Horton is on the slate as well. So really, same way to think about things as always. And really, was the thing that I got wrong on Monday's slate amidst a lot of things I felt like I got right. I was so big on Zay Flowers. You saw the price tag being too cheap at $8,400 on that DraftKings showdown. And in reality, I was also like, I like Bateman. I like Mark Andrews. Somebody in the chat actually said when I was hand building my lineup here at the last part of the video for the sim part, was like, oh, like, why are you triple stacking Lamar? And for me, it was like, I thought that was a way to get unique to really capture the passing upside I thought Lamar had in that game. But in reality, Zay Flowers not hitting makes sense when you have Bateman having an outlier day, Mark Andrews having an outlier day. Even with Hopkins not being terribly involved, even with nobody else on the team being terribly involved in the pass game. That's sort of how that works. So on this slate, if you don't play JSN and you want the pass game for Seattle, or you expect it to have some success, you think about Kupp more, you think about Horton more, you think about AJ Barner / a very cheap Elijah Arroyo more. For Trey McBride, same thing. You think about Marvin Harrison more. You think about Michael Wilson more. Greg Dortch. There's no Zay Jones now. Tip Ryman, he can catch a touchdown, I suppose, but not really the kind of player I want to play a ton of. Point being is that JSN and Trey McBride are so important on the slate, so well projected on the slate. You got to start to think about how or the ways they fail or just don't have the upside they might have to actually make a winning lineup. We got Kyler Murray at number 3 with a 16.9 projection. So, again, pretty decent projection cliff between JSN and Trey McBride, and then another one between Trey McBride and Kyler Murray. But Kyler Murray, 10.8 salary for him, a little bit more expensive. That said, on this slate, Sam Darnold's a 10K salary, and Darnold has not been a super great fantasy QB to start the year. I would much rather play Kyler Murray on the slate. I think Kyler as well might be a beneficiary of not having James Conner out there. Just the ball in his hands a little bit more, the opportunity to perhaps get the pass rate up a little bit. They're already about 1.6% higher than expectation right now. I think that could creep up a little bit more without having the reliable James Conner out there. And I still think Trey Benson is going to be a great play today, but losing Conner does matter quite a bit. And if you missed it, Connor ankle injury, going to be out for the year, actually ankle/foot, I think is what it sounds like. For James Conner, him missing is a pretty big thing, but I think it's one that, even though I expect Trey Benson to step in, have a good role, I think Kyler does win out a little bit from that opportunity as well, and I'm willing to pay that price tag at 10-8. Trey Benson, $8,800 salary for him. He's been very good on the year, 28.6% avoided tackle rate on run plays, 25% on pass plays. So he's putting in that work. Anything above 25%, I would say, is a guy that has juice. He's missing tackles, forcing a lot by missing that 1 out of 4. Not been terribly efficient with a negative 0.2 EPA per rush. Same thing per pass, but that could be a reflection of the offense. Big thing that stands out for me with Trey Benson is that he's getting targeted about 23% of the time he's running a route. For comparison, you have Trey McBride at 25%. Nobody else on the team above 20. Benson has been meaningfully involved in the pass game. So for FanDuel, if you're playing on their night, you're watching this video, even though I don't really try to cover FanDuel because it is a different game to play the half-point PPR, and that's why that DraftKings logo is on there, not the FanDuel one. For you guys out there, I do think if you're playing on FanDuel, I think Benson probably less appealing play than he is on DraftKings, where I think he's got a very good shot to PPR scam his way to some success. And for what it's worth, a 3-game sample size for Seattle's defense, giving up a 22.6% target rate to running backs overall. That's higher than most of the league. So I think it could be a situation that benefits Benson, even if he doesn't get to the end zone. And really, without Connor there, his odds of getting to the end zone are also much higher, as long as Arizona's moving the ball. But even if he doesn't score a touchdown, I think he's got a pretty good shot of making a lineup because of that PPR upside. Sam Darnold, your 5th highest projected guy, at a 16.1 projection. So, functionally projection-wise, the rushing difference for Kyler Murray, who runs so far this year 6.3 times per game. Sam Darnold running only 0.7. We also have about 1 red zone rush a game for Kyler Murray compared to 0 for Sam Darnold. Actually, 1 inside the 10-yard line rush a game for Kyler Murray compared to 0 for Sam Darnold. The projections are pretty flat. So, obviously, the total's higher for Seattle. They are a 1.5-point favorite today. But I'm just not sold on Sam Darnold here. I got this right on Monday with Jared Goff, even though he had a pretty good game in that spot. Sam Darnold, I think, has a pretty good shot of not making a winning lineup because the guys around him are priced too similarly, and I think you're going to also absorb some of his upside. That said, like I say a lot lately, if I think that, a lot of people might think that as well. So perhaps it gives you some more hope to play Sam Darnold and get that upside right. And if you do get it right, maybe that helps you a little bit more. With this projection being so high, Stochastic also projected him for about 48% ownership in the flex. I'm not really sure you're getting an ownership discount on Sam Darnold this one. Like, he's going to be less owned, it seems, than Kyler Murray, less owned than Trey Benson, but still in a lot of lineups. So for Sam Darnold, to me, he's the player that out of this top 5 right away, I think he's one player I want to find out ways to fade. Besides that, though, pretty big jump between him and Kenneth Walker. Zach Charbonnet being back in, not great for Kenneth Walker with these guys basically splitting drives overall. Kenneth Walker was okay in that last spot fantasy-wise, not really great in terms of real-life football. But on the year, Walker's got 3 red zone opportunities a game by comparison. Zach Charbonnet at 3. Walker's also getting 1 inside the 10-yard line per game. Charbonnet's getting 2. So Charbonnet's workload has been functionally a little bit better. That might be because of the game script and where a Charbonnet drive is going versus a Walker drive. But that said, Walker, I think, an interesting play. Talked about it at some length with Mike Powell-Waffy on Stochastic on their strategy show this morning for the showdown. I think Walker, to me, playing him at captain, playing that upside, or if he does break some long touchdowns, like, he's probably hitting in a huge way. It's really the way to play him at 10-4. But if I had to guess, this slate was priced with the assumption that Walker would play with Charbonnet out, because Charbonnet is at 5,400, Walker's at 10-4. And the talent level, like, it greatly favors Walker. He misses more tackles. He's got a lot more juice in the traditional sense. But at $5,000 difference, like, you should probably get more Charbonnet in the slate. When you're playing Walker, it's like you're playing a dominant build where he's going off. Like, I think that's how I would try to play Kenneth Walker with that price tag being so high. But definitely a pay up to be contrarian spot for Kenneth Walker today. Let's sort by value here. Zonovan Knight, who should get theoretically onto the active roster and let me check if he's actually played any snaps this year. Zonovan Knight has not played so far this season. He was a player who was decent on the Jets a couple years ago. The thing with Zonovan Knight and Amari DiMercato as well, DiMercato should become the number 2 back, but Trey Benson had him iced in the pass game role. Again, he's getting targeted more than every receiver besides Trey McBride. So for DiMercato, like, I kind of think that what he's good at, we already know Benson, they believe he's better than him at. For Zonovan Knight, you can maybe give him a few carries to take the pressure off Benson. Benson's only seen 7 rushes a game. That's still not bad for the number 2 back, but It could be something where maybe they keep Benson's overall touch workload down and give a few looks to Zonovan Knight. I'm still not sold. He's a good play. Elijah Arroyo at 800 does stand out a lot more. That said, Arroyo is going to be decently owned. Zonovan Knight not owned. So if that outcome hits, if Arizona also gets smoked, I guess Zonovan Knight has a shot to get on the field. Or if they pull a big lead, maybe Zonovan Knight breaks a long play here. Like, he is a guy that I remember missing tackles fairly well when he was a decent player in the Jets. That was a couple years ago now. Knight projects well as a value here. I don't know if he should matter a lot, but if he's active and it is an uncertain RB situation with Connor gone, there's upside for him. I'm just not sure how much is there. Elijah Arroyo, your number 2 value. Xavier Weaver, your number 3 value. An Arizona receiver who I guess gets some routes. Was Zay Jones out, excuse me. Simi Fehoko, also in Arizona. We have seen him have some upside. Fehoko, another guy who could pick up some routes because of not having Zay Jones out there. Fehoko has not played on the year. Zay, though. Zay Jones vacates. Zay Jones is actually vacating a lot of routes. 30 routes per game, 31 in week 1, 28 in week 2, 33 in week 3. So that matters. Weaver and Fehoko, I would probably favor Fehoko because he's had some fantasy upside before. These guys might be more in play than I thought because I didn't even consider them really when doing the strategy show. But because Zay Jones leaving a lot of routes behind, you could, I guess, get just more Michael Wilson. That's probably the most logical outcome. These guys could be in the mix, so I'll just say their names out loud. Zach Charbonnet, though, the most obvious value at 5,400. He's just not priced to be playing today. And again, with Stochastic giving him basically the same projection, about 0.6 projection difference between him and Kenneth Walker. For Zach Charbonnet, who has been full practicing all week, I think Charbonnet is technically your best value and should be the most obvious one. And at 5,400 for Charbonnet, they got so many empty spots here. It's weird. Charbonnet in his price range are the kickers, Jason Myers and Chad Ryland. You also have Torrey Horton, who's really expensive. I think on the strength of having the 2 touchdowns last week, one a return touchdown, the other a normal touchdown. There's really not a great pivot for Zach Charbonnet at his price tag. And the projection for Horton is about 5 fantasy points lower. So Charbonnet should come up a lot in lineups, and we'll see what ETR thinks. But Charbonnet, I think, will be highly owned, and deservedly so because he's not priced like he was going to play on the slate. Ownership here, Stochastic ownership right now. And of course, make sure to get yourself access to all this data as it updates throughout the day at Stochastic. All the data tools, all the sims, all of that is 15% off. Use the promo code SPLASH. So please support the show. Half the money when you sign up using that promo code SPLASH, or click the link in the description. It goes back to the show. It's a big part of how I put things on here. So if you want this channel to continue on in its glorious fashion, please use that promo code SPLASH over at Stochastic. And of course, join the Discord as well. Join the channel, $5 to join. You access the Discord, you access my weekly data sheet, my weekly premium stream as well, going game by game with all my advanced analytics. So 2 little pluggies here, but please do take door 1, take door 2. How often do you use all 50K of the salary for Showdown? And smash the like, I agree with that. Not very often. In fact, one of the rules I make when building lineups on the solver in particular is I only want lineups 49.9 or less. You see it every week. Stochastic puts out a tweet of like, what are the most dupe lineups on the main slate? You know, the Millie Maker kind of tournaments for each showdown. It's always a 50K lineup where like it's all legit rotational players used, and it's got like 700 dupes. So to me, just ruling out the 50K lineups right away is an easy way to do that. Theoretically, if a 50K lineup where you're playing like, 2 under 10% owned guys or something, that shouldn't be duped, but because it's a 50K lineup, it still probably ends up duped more than it should. Weirdly, that's like the one thing that the field hasn't really adjusted to. And I guess, they shouldn't because those lineups still project well. But like 50K lineups, I don't think win very often. I don't have the data offhand, but they don't win very often because they end up so easily duped by multiple people. Even then, you still end up likely duped because of just using the whole salary. The better move is like you have a great 50K lineup you like. You go from a wide receiver 1 to wide receiver 2 on a team kind of thing. That's usually what I would try to do more for a showdown, but it's usually not the most likely that you end up unduped. That's that. Usually max it on FanDuel. All right. Or usually max 58.50. Yeah, there you go. That makes sense. So yeah, leaving more on the table on FanDuel, I think would be logical, but you can make the case like you should only play lineups under 49K, like because your win rate will be higher. You're just getting away from a patch of lineups that a lot of people do play that also often end up in dupe trains. But it depends how extreme you want to be. But generally, more salary on the table on a showdown equals more uniqueness. JSN, 64% expected ownership overall, includes 24% of captain. So very chalky, highest expense player on the slate is JSN right now. Look, JSN's been a target monster. Like I believe I mentioned earlier in the video, 43.3% target per route run. That's better than a guy. Last year, Puka Nacua was at about 38%, with him being banged up. Basically, when he was out there, they were trying to feed him the ball. That was a great rate. JSN through 3 games has been better than that rate. Still, the efficiency leaves something to be desired. The lack of touchdown equity, kind of like a Puka Nacua, leaves something to be desired. But JSN, full point PPR. I think he's an easy play to get into lineups still. I think he'll be in more lineups than not for me. But it's a lot of ownership at captain. Like, I think trying to play some other captains would likely be the better move. For FanDuel, I think I would downgrade JSN a little bit because the full point PPR of it, I think, is really where he looks good. But, you know, game script for Arizona, losing James Conner just kind of makes them play shittily. JSN's maybe not as involved there. There are ways to play Seattle winning without JSN as well. So I think he's an important play. He's a highest owned player for a reason in terms of projection, in terms of the workload he's had in the year. But, you know, he is a guy that I think he's really one of the key pieces to, if you're not playing, think about how he doesn't get there, build a lineup that kind of makes sense around that. Kyler Murray at number 2, 60% ownership expected overall, 11.5% of captain. So technically your 4th highest owned captain, even though he's the number 2 highest owned guy expected by Stochastic here. For Kyler, I think he's a strong play. He's running over 6 times a game, including about 1 in the red zone, like I mentioned before. For Kyler, I think the workload's been good. I think more can fall in his hands without Connor there. The risk is, and he's also been throwing a high catchable ball rate, which for Kyler is a great sign. 87% catchable ball rate, though very low ADOT overall. Weirdly, he's only throwing he's chucking it downfield to Marvin Harrison, but everything else is kind of close to the line of scrimmage. Including Trey McBride's targets for what it's worth. He's averaging 4 air yards, or 5.3, air yards per target for Trey McBride, which is really just catch and run material. But for Kyler, he's playing well within the structure of the offense, failing really badly under pressure, though, giving up a negative 1.1 EPA on pressure plays. So I think there is some floor to Kyler for sure. But I like him more than dislike him. I think the team total here is not bad for Arizona, but I think Kyler's got a hand in probably 2 out of the touchdowns. That would be my guess, assuming they score 3. So Kyler, strong play to me, but will be decently owned. I think trying to play him at captain with Benson and McBride or Harrison as well. I think that's sort of what I would try to do with him. But I like Kyler today. Ownership, though, is definitely there. Trey Benson, 58% ownership overall, 15.5% of captain. Stochastic put out a tweet from the strategy show this morning where I said to me, I think relative to price, Trey Benson is the most unfadable player on the slate. That's probably about how I believe overall. For Benson, it's been a good workload. Like I mentioned, the pass game has been there for him, even though DeMercado, that's where he's specialized. So the fact that he's in the mix now doesn't really matter because Benson might lose some overall snap volume, but he's clearly been the higher valued guy. So I think that's going to benefit him if it does end up in the red zone at all, if the ball for Arizona ends up in the red zone at all. So for Benson, like him a good amount here. He's been shifty. He's been good. We'll see how the volume that he gets affects that. But I think for Benson, he's a player I think is talented. Took a lot of him in best ball this year. If you guys watched the streams over the summer and the spring. So I'm excited to see him get a shot here. The tough part is that both run defenses are pretty good. Seattle's run defense giving up a negative 0.1 EPA per rush, which is one of the better marks in the league. They are stuffing the run at average 21% rate. Nothing too special there. I don't think it's a pristine rushing matchup for Benson, but it's a nice pass game rushing matchup for him, or running back matchup for him. On the year, Seattle giving up a 23% target rate to running backs with pretty good efficiency. So it's really why I think the pass game stuff for Benson matters, and why I think he's a really good PPR play, maybe less good of a play on FanDuel at the half point PPR. Trey Benson, 53% ownership expected for him, 13% at captain. So expected to be behind Trey Benson in captain ownership by Stochastic, which feels pretty jarring. I think McBride's too cheap at 9,800. He caught his touchdown last week. People will think that means, he's never going to catch another one again. I think it's a great sign. He's catching any touchdowns now. He's had 1 red zone target a game, which has been inside the 10-yard line. For Trey Benson, or for Trey McBride, rather, too many Treys. I think that he's a strong play as well. I do think, though, if McBride were to fail, you probably see Marvin Harrison have a good day. So I consider, looking at lineups where if you're playing a 20 max, playing 150 max, look at some lineups where McBride doesn't make it. Harrison does. Harrison makes it at captain. Maybe McBride only makes it in the flex kind of stuff. I think for Trey McBride, though, he's been a really good player. He commands 9 targets a game. JSN commands 9.7. They're the highest in this game by a really wide margin. So they're your top 2 guys. I like McBride more than JSN, but I like them both, frankly, that same way to start the year. And it's been more JSN in terms of being an outlier player and target earning and things like that. Sam Darnold, 48% ownership expected overall, including 7% of captain. Sam Darnold definitely highly owned here. The 10K salary. He's only dropping back 26 times per game. It's not a lot of volume there. For comparison, Kyler dropping back 35.3. And both teams do have pretty low play volume, only 58 per game for Arizona, 56 for Seattle. So add that on top here. I'm just not crazy about Darnold. I think it's likely that JSN, Benson, McBride, Kyler, maybe Marvin Harrison, maybe Cooper Kupp outscore him. I'm just not a big Darnold believer here. I don't like what I've seen so far. He's been like efficient, I guess. But even still, his catchable ball rate's been pretty low. Like, I think he's probably worse than the results he's gotten. Just not crazy about Darnold on the slate. Of course, that means put him in captain, stack him up with all of the Seahawks you want. But really, with how much ownership is going to JSN, there is a game theory reason to go to Darnold. Like, you play him at captain, play JSN with Cooper Kupp, play JSN with AJ Barner. That's one way to capture JSN's upside in a more unique way while still playing into what people are playing. So I think it's decent leverage for Darnold. I just don't like his price. I feel like he shouldn't be quite as expensive as he is. Zach Charbonnet, the $5,400 salary, expected for 44% ownership. Just going down here, kickers, 25%-ish ownership for Jason Myers and Chad Ryland. Seahawks D, 24%. Cardinals D, 17%. Kenneth Walker with the high price tag, protected for 20% ownership, which feels light, but he's incredibly expensive at 10-4. Really think the thing is that casual players will put Walker in and just eat that price tag because they assume that he won the role by having a good game last week. Projection-wise, though, I think you're going to see, we'll see what ETR has, but if I had to guess, Walker and Charbonnet are going to be much lower play, or Walker will be much lower played because projection sites will put Walker and Charbonnet much closer, as they should based upon the first two games. Guys under 10%. Torrey Horton, just really expensive at 5,800. That should keep his ownership in check. AJ Barner at 2,800. He's running 17 routes per game compared to 10.3 for Elijah Arroyo. So Barner's out there. He's not being targeted very much at a 12% rate, but he gets about 0.7 red zone targets a game. He can catch a touchdown. Zonovan Knight at 3%. Again, DeMercado at 8. If one of these guys gets there, these guys are very much direct leverage on Trey Benson. It's just, does Benson get Balcal work, or does he split the workload like James Conner did? I don't really know. I don't think there's been any signal unless somebody feels differently in the chat. Tip Ryman is playing about 12.5 routes per game, 33 snaps. He's at 3% ownership at 2K. Elijah Higgins. That's Jaden Higgins. Sorry. Elijah, 10 snaps last game, down from 20 the 2 games before that. Would probably favor Ryman because I believe his snap count's coming up. Ryman missed game 2, played 33 snaps week 1 and week 3. These guys, though, functionally the same player. Simi Fehoko, Xavier Weaver. These are low-owned guys. Let's go to the solver next. Let's see what we get in terms of a cash game lineup right now. And let's look at these solver projections, too. Guys, show some love if you can. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button down below. It goes a long way for me here. Just one guy fighting off the YouTube algorithm. And I really do appreciate you guys. We're going to be over 100 likes on every video, which I'm hoping starts to fight back against the fact that, like, just live videos don't get rewarded as well. There are, like, very similar showdown videos out there that are pre-recorded. But I like doing it live because I like when you guys have good chats. And, you know, I want to keep that option open. And it's easier for me to doing it pre-recorded as well. But please just help me fight the good fight here. Subscribe down below. Hit the like button. Leave a comment. If you're on Twitter, like button and follow button on there. But show some love if you can. And check out the solver too. Link in the description for the solver if you want to use the tool that I'm about to use here on screen. Let's build 25 lineups with no variance, no boosts. And it'll give us a read on what the projections are going to be here. Oh. Okay. Wait, so I can't even optimize now? That's so weird. So DraftKings made new optimizer rules for partners. Okay, here, let's knock this projection down 0.01. Right, there's our 2 changes. I've never seen that in the solver before. That's new. Brown eyes. Brown eyes. You don't usually see my asshole on stream. Though, again, with how things are, you know, just let me know. I'm happy to make a new tier for anybody who wants to see assholes. Besides this asshole right here. Kyler Murray. That was such a fucking boomer dad joke. Kill me. Kyler Murray, JSN, Trey Benson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Zach Charbonnet, Elijah Arroyo. So a fade on Trey McBride in the optimal lineup here. That is surprising to me. Huh. Overall, in the top 25, Kyler Murray makes every lineup with ETR data. You just ran off those and didn't get that message. I don't know. I don't get what happened here. I've never gotten that message before, but whatever. We fixed it. And if you want to do that, that's the same thing. I just knock a couple decimal points off. Like that's a normal way to do that if you have to do something stupid. Who knows? But Kyler Murray is all top 25 these lineups, so it does seem like ETR data thinks he's the strongest play. It's worth noting, though, it seems like JSN, they have a little bit lower than Stochastic. ETR has JSN at 19.1. Stochastic had JSN, 21.4. So it does change the math around a little bit. So Kyler coming up more with ETR data where his projection is higher. And actually, real fast, let's go to the flex, sorting by projection here. So JSN number 1 at 19.1 or a slightly adjusted projection here. Kyler Murray at number 2, 18.8. Trey Benson, number 3 at 15.9. Trey McBride, they've got a lot lower than Stochastic, about 3 points lower at 15.6. And Sam Darnold at 15.6 as well. All right, so the McBride part's the really different part here, and JSN being lower is going to flatten out his ownership. So that's the main stuff there to note projection-wise. But JSN still at 96% of these lineups, including 20% at captain. Charbonnet's in 88% of them. Trey Benson's in 88% of them. ETR users going to get some less Trey McBride, though. Only 28% of the top 25 lineups with no booster variants have Trey McBride. About a quarter of the lineups have Kyler stacked up with Benson and Michael Wilson. Another quarter have just Kyler and Benson. Overall stack construction, 55% of these top 25 lineups are a 3-3 build, so balanced builds. You're getting then 28% 4-2s for Seattle and 16% 4-2s for Cardinals. So onslaughts on the menu here. They're not coming up naturally, which always makes you think that the onslaughts get underplayed. So that's something to keep in mind here. But let me put in my boosts now and see what we get with that. All right, we got 99 here. We got 99% salary. Let me take off the max ownership thing. And let's build at 250 here with ETR's variance built in. Oh, it's from using default variance. Well, that's probably because you made a change then. Because if you put variance on, you're making a change to the projections. But yeah, that's, I guess, good. It really feels like one of those, like, what is the point of this kind of things to me? To be like, oh, you got to change one thing. Because you do the same thing with the best ball tournaments where it's like, oh, you have to make one pick on DraftKings. But whatever. Whatever makes people feel. Because the thing is, like, if you just play lineup straight like I just did here from the tool, like, yeah, for your cash games, if you play that top 25 lineups I just showed you here in a tournament, you're going to be duped to death. It's going to be very similar to a lot of people's lineups. Like, you're not building good lineups when you just take a tool verbatim. But whatever. Doesn't really matter. Always just interesting to see and try to understand the how and why. All right, we built 250 lineups here. Hopefully there's a sim ready to go, and I believe there is. Let's put these in the Millie Maker. $20 today. Of course, the portfolio tool, I will highlight again, even though I'm not going to build it because it adds some extra time. But portfolio tool is a great one. I'd use it myself on every slate. At this point, building 20 max entries, using ETR solver data. So use this portfolio tool if you are using the solver, but on stream right now, we're not going to do it. Basically, what it does is allows you to get different diversification sets in your portfolio pool. So you can build 50 different portfolios of like 150 lineups each, 20 lineups each, whatever you're doing. And it's a great tool. I use it as well when I'm like leaving one player out. I'll then take out Zay Flowers, let's say on Monday night slate, and then build my best lineups with that. And I'll take a portfolio that's diverse. Really what I try to do is take the highest ROI that's still kind of in the spectrum of highest ROIs, but has the most diversity. So if you use the portfolio tool, you'll get that. If you don't use it, you'll have no clue what the fuck I'm talking about, but it is a nice tool to have to be able to get 20 lineups in and try to have them leverage against each other a little bit more. Dortch Day, not for me, but we'll see what the data has. Top projected players or top projected lineups right now. Sim ROI of 2250 on this one. So this definitely wins you the Millie Maker. Wow. Wins you at 2.4% of the time. It's the top 1% lineup. Marvin Harrison, captain. JSN, Cooper Kupp, Zach Charbonnet, Michael Wilson, Kyler Murray. So this is a really important lesson for me on Monday's slate. Again, talked about this on Stochastic and earlier in the video. Why does Leone hate McBride? It does seem like he, of course, is the man behind all the projections. He particular has a beef against Trey McBride. I presume it's a lack of touchdown equity, probably coming out in the projection a little bit. But really the key thing here is like when you're fading Trey McBride, you then take 2 receivers here and you're still saying the pass game gets there, but McBride fails. I am surprised to see McBride be the first piece that gets faded here because I would have thought JSN would be a little bit more natural. But that said here, you're fading Mike McBride. You're playing Harrison and Wilson on Monday. Zay Flowers doesn't get there. You have more production going for Mark Andrews, more production going for Rashad Bateman. That's sort of how that push-pull works usually, unless the entire pass attack goes nuts. But I like this build for that reason. So Harrison and captain, JSN, Cooper Kupp, Zach Charbonnet, Michael Wilson, Kyler Murray. Leaves 700 to the table, and it claims no dupes, which seems impossible. Puts a Tylenol down. Somebody say Spectrum. Yes, of course. Make sure you pregnant mothers out there don't take Tylenol. I don't know if you guys watched the Jimmy Kimmel bit, not to get political, guys, but the thing where he had Trump just repeatedly saying, don't take Tylenol, don't take Tylenol. It's like, he said it like 100 times at press conference. It's fucking insane. But don't take Tylenol, guys, even though there's no science to say don't take Tylenol. Number 2, Michael Wilson, Sam Darnold, Trey Benson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Cooper Kupp, Kyler Murray. Another 2,000% ROI lineup here, 2150 if you want to be accurate to the number here. But again, in lesser-owned captain and fading Trey McBride, and you're fading JSN too. So a couple noteworthy fades in this lineup. Number 3, we got Trey McBride at captain. So again, some diversity up top here in how we're approaching things. And that is the kind of diversity you're looking for. We have 2 lineups directly fading McBride, giving you a credible reason, I guess, at least based on sim data, how McBride doesn't get there. Then you get McBride going off in the third one. So that's kind of a nice balance to have here. Trey McBride, Sam Darnold, Marvin Harrison Jr., Zach Charbonnet, Elijah Arroyo, Kyler Murray. So a Kyler double with McBride making it his captain, fading JSN, fading... Really, that's the big fade, I guess. Fading Trey Benson would be the other one. So that's at number 3. Are they saying solver optimal lineups are too good? What is DK trying to prevent? This is the biggest solver endorsement ever. I think it's more that the solver is like paying attention to terms of service things. They are, I'm sure, a DraftKings partner, so DraftKings might have mentioned it to him. That would be my guess. But Stochastic, I'm surprised it doesn't have one, but I guess you have to naturally do certain things to make it build lineups. So it might not have to put up the thing, like some sort of blocker to say like change this to count your lineups. But at number 4 here, we have Kyler captain, Cooper Kupp, Jason Myers, so fading JSN in this one, and Sam Darnold for less ownership. You're also fading Trey Benson, but taking Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Wilson. So you can see here, you're fading one of the key guys in every lineup at least, and a lot of them fading 2 out of the top 3 of what I think are the most important plays in the slate: McBride, JSN, Trey Benson. It seems like that's what ETR is working around the most here. And at number 5, another Cardinals heavy lineup here with Kyler at captain yet again. Kyler at captain, Zach Charbonnet is your 1 Seahawk, Chad Ryland, the kicker, Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison, Michael Wilson. So all the pass catchers here with Kyler. So again, trying to do what I tried to capture with Lamar Jackson. And I will note here, ETR's data team has pointed out in videos that they particularly like lineups that have this kind of V curve here where it hits a good amount here, it gets top 1%, 3% of the time, but then it's failing when it's not getting there a good amount, about 3% of the time. It's flat out in dead last as a lineup. So if their data guys like lineups like this, you probably should like lineups like this. Their top JSN lineup, just for the sake of prosperity here: JSN at captain, Kyler Murray, Zach Charbonnet, Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch, Sam Darnold. So you're fading Benson, fading McBride. Seems to be a common theme of these top sim lineups. Overall, the highest ROI players, according to ETR data, Cardinals D, which barely comes up. When it does come up, it has a 502% ROI. For the Greg Dortch fans, here we go. Kevin, it's not a Dortch day for me, but ETR is saying when you play Greg Dortch 16% of the time, he has a 390% ROI. So it's a good amount of Greg Dortch coming in, and it does seem like a decent cosign on him getting in here. Where does Zay Jones leave behind in terms of routes? Greg Dortch is getting 2 targets out wide on the year, 2 in the slot. Zay Jones had 4 targets on the slot this year, which is slightly less than Michael Wilson's 5, slightly less than Marvin Harrison's 6. McBride leads the way with 15. I guess they could play Dortch more out of the slot. I'm not sure that's a guarantee though. I worry about Dortch, but ETR is backing him here. 390% ROI. Number 3, Jason Myers at 375% ROI across his 10% exposure. Marty Mercado at 364% ROI, only in the flex with 10% exposure. And Michael Wilson, a 361% ROI at 43% exposure. I still think Wilson has to be the big winner for Zay Jones being out, but Dortch, I suppose, should play a little bit more, especially if they don't play Fehoko and Weaver, I guess. I think people will overplay Dortch a little bit. Who gets more work in the game, Walker or Zach? Should be pretty close to even based upon what we saw the first couple games, but who knows? Charbonnet, my guess is that Charbonnet could have played last week if he had to, but they let him rest because it was a short week, given the fact that he was immediately, full practice this week. Relative price, you're going to get more Charbonnet, but Walker at 10-4, like if he hits, he's going to break the slate. So I know it's not a great answer, but it's going to be a split workload. So it just comes down to like who gets the touchdowns, whose drives go better. That's how it goes. All right, player stacks, nothing to note here. Overall, we're getting 4-2s 30% of the time favoring the Cardinals, 3-3s favoring nobody here 26% of the time. 4-2s the Seahawks and 21% of lineups. Then our 5-1s, a 5-1 Cardinal at 14%, and Seahawks 5-1. That's it. There isn't a pass catching back. They split drives. It's a Walker drive or it's a Charbonnet drive. On the year, Charbonnet, I have getting no targets. Walker's getting 1.7 per game. So it's theoretically Walker, but neither's really had a great pass game role. All right, let's go to Stochastic next, guys. I think we're making okay time. Let's simulate these lineups here. 50,000 lineup pool. Let's get 35% going to first. And guys, show some love if you can. Again, I'm going to quickly pander for some likes and using things. Promo code SPLASH at the solver. Again, if you want to use ETR's tool, which we just showed you here, the solver, it's a great tool. Combines the optimizer with a classic Fantasy Cruncher optimizer with the sim component, with using ETR's data. Mike Leone, one of the sharpest guys in the biz. I'm happy to know him a little bit through some of the streams I've done. That said, he's a guy that I hold in a lot of esteem. I watch his content. I think he's great. You get all that stuff. And of course, the other great guys at ETR, their data team, which they do a great job with as well. All of that in the Solvers tool. And Stochastic, which you'll see here as well, 15% off, promo code SPLASH down below. Both links are in the description. Both are promo code SPLASH. You just want to go sign up. But please do support the show if you can, because I really would like to see more signups going, because I am behind my personal affiliate conversion goals, which doesn't really make sense. But it's like views have been good. Engagement's been good. I don't know. But boy, I need some conversions. So please, tap Dan, please sign up for Stochastic. Data tools, Sims tools, all 15% off. Expensive stuff, the cheap stuff, but buy the expensive stuff. Get a season-long pack. Get a year-long of all access. You'll be good to go. And join the Discord too, guys. If you join the channel, you get access automatically. Just click the link in the description when you join. You add to the Discord. It's a great place to be. Whenever there's anything breaking injury-wise, any interesting findings I come across throughout the course of the week, I drop it in there. You also get my data sheet for the week. You also get my premium video going game by game with my data. Look through everything I pull from Sports Info Solutions, which is really the most premium thing. Pro Football Reference as well, whatever. So check it out by joining. I thought that was going to be timed out perfectly. We're just going to load and I transition. Instead, I'm going to drink water. Let's compile our results here. Shout out to all you guys watching live. I do appreciate everybody watching these showdown videos, whether you are watching live or after the fact. Happy to see the engagement here. Happy to hopefully get some things right for you guys, even if you're just fading me. But I think if you fade me, you're not going to win. Like, I think if you fade me, you're going to miss the stuff that I get right. If you blindly tail me, you're going to end up with Zay Flowers. So that's the push-pull of any content creator, I think. But I do the best I can. Top lineup here, according to Stochastic. Trey McBride at captain. Cooper Kupp, Jake Bobo. Why is Jake Bobo making this lineup? I guess, Torrey Horton did hit in a big way last week. So I guess it makes some theoretical amount of sense to go Jake Bobo. Jake Bobo playing 14.5 snaps per game, only running 2.5 routes. It's pretty thin. Horton playing 27.3 snaps per game, 14 routes. He's been good, man. Could stand to earn more targets, but he needs JSN to earn less to do that. Yeah, I don't know about Jake Bobo. But Jake Bobo, JSN, Sam Darnold, Zach Charbonnet. So 5-1 build with Seahawks and Trey McBride at captain, which is not normally something you see in onslaught builds, but the Stochastic Sim thinks that's great. Number 2, we are getting some weird lineups here. Number 2 is kicker, Chad Ryland at captain. Cardinals D makes it. JSN makes it. Marvin Harrison, Trey Benson, Trey McBride. So you are still getting many key Cardinals here, but I guess playing the kicker on the assumption there are not a lot of passing touchdowns for Chad Ryland or for Kyler Murray rather to get Chad Ryland in. So kicker at captain at number 2. Not a big ROI disparity either. It's 660% ROI compared to the 700% of the first one. Number 3 is Zach Charbonnet, captain. Chad Ryland again. Kyler Murray, Sam Darnold, Torrey Horton, Trey McBride. So you're fading JSN in that one, but everything else, sure. Not really sure you're capturing how JSN doesn't make a winning lineup, but I get how the lineup can win. Number 4 is Trey McBride, AJ Barner, JSN, Jason Myers. Two Jason JSNs here, technically. But Jason Myers, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Sam Darnold, Torrey Horton. So you're really going Seattle pass game here. And McBride at captain. I am shocked to see Trey McBride captain in 5-1 builds multiple times here up top. At number 5, another Zach Charbonnet captain. So we got 2 Trey McBride captains, 2 Charbonnet captains in the top 5. Charbonnet captain with, again, Chad Ryland. Jason Myers makes this one, so both kickers. JSN, Sam Darnold, Trey Benson. So you fade Trey McBride in this one, go to Darnold instead. Still leaving 2,300 on the table. And all these lineups leaving at least 700 on the table. And this one, a lot of money up top here. Really, a lot of these top ones, 74, 47.4 after this, 47.5. You're leaving a lot of salary up top here. 2 routes is razor thin. That's true. And sometimes that guy can catch a touchdown and still not make a winning lineup. So it happens. Least common denominator is achievement. Okay. Is that a quote of the day? Was Kyler banged up last when these teams faced? Seahawks held him to 9 and 18 rushing yards. He was banged up all year. He also barely ran last year. He talked in the offseason about wanting to try to get back to running more, and he has done that so far. I think Kyler's making business decisions coming off injury, but, I wouldn't read too much into 2-game sample size personally, but you can read into that if you want. Your top ROI players. Xavier, no fucking chance. Guys, okay, if Xavier Weaver wins it at captain tonight, I quit DFS. That's what I'll say. Xavier Weaver, 105% ROI at a $300 salary at captain. Look, if he hits, I guess he hits in a major way and you can cram in all the stars. I don't see how Xavier Weaver hits enough here filling in for Zay Jones. But Xavier Weaver here, your top ROI player. Elijah Higgins at number 2 at captain. This is bad. Like, you normally, and look, it can hit the way that usually a super cheap, like not super highly projected captain hits is like all the stars needed to be in your lineup. And then having this cheap captain who scored a touchdown and put up more yardage than realized. And usually they still have to give you like 15 points or so. That's how that wins. I don't see how Xavier Weaver, Elijah Higgins, and Tip Ryman do that. That said, it is a stochastic sim, and sometimes I say this, and they end up completely right, and I end up completely wrong. So Xavier Weaver, Elijah Higgins, Tip Ryman, all of them at captain have your highest ROIs in the slate. No chance. Number 4, I say that now, and of course, we'll crown $1 million winner with Captain Elijah Higgins coming up later tonight. Derek Young, he's in the return game for Seattle. So maybe he gets the touchdown this week instead of Torrey Horton. $1,200 salary. He's got a 5% ROI on him. Derek Young, though, not a guy I expect to have a lot of tonight. Chad Ryland at captain. That's fine. The kicker we saw of upside, 5% ROI for Chad Ryland at kicker. And Seahawks D, a 2% ROI at captain. Trey McBride, a 0.4% ROI at captain, which is interesting to note here that even given a good amount of ownership, I'm sure, the McBride still has a positive ROI in Stochastic's top 150 lineups when you play him at captain. Kyler's playing less Call of Duty this year, too. I mean, doesn't the game suck now? So that's it. Eating more kimchi. Oh, good. I didn't know he's Korean. Kimchi's delicious, though, so good. He should. Kimchi, one of the best snacks? I don't know. I don't know how you make it. I've never made it at home, but boy, whenever I get Korean, I try to get some extra kimchi on the side because one of my favorite things to eat. Highest exposures here. Why is it giving me captain? I didn't select captain. All right. Highest exposures here in Stochastic's top 150. JSN, you're getting 48% of lineups in the flex. Fields at 42. Trey McBride, you're getting 42% of lineups in the flex. Fields at 40. So positive stands on our 2 most obvious plays in the slate. Trey Benson, 40% of Stochastics top 150 lineups. He is in the flex compared to the field's 42. So a little bit of a fade on Trey Benson, but not enough to matter. Was it great for your gut health? Good. It's spicy. I like that. Kyler Murray, 39% exposure. Fields at 48. So a little bit of a fade on Kyler in the flex, but nothing really to note. Charbonnet holding hands, 38% Stochastics, top 150. Field expected for 37.5% ownership. Not really any big fades here for sure. Elijah Higgins has scored on 8% of his targets. Just imagine if he gets 30 targets. That's true. That is how the sample size works. I mean, look, sometimes that kind of thought, and I know obviously our guy Nolan here is not saying it too seriously, but sometimes it does pay off where like you have the Jackson Hawes touchdown last week because he's getting a red zone target occasionally, getting targeted, a third of the time he runs a route. Like sometimes that does pay off. So like I wouldn't begrudge you playing Elijah Higgins based on a small sample size. And look, you get the direct fade on Trey McBride. I don't want to say it never hits because that's when it fucking hits and I feel like an asshole. But it's crazy to see him be a number 2 ROI guy like that. And at captain, I don't know how he hits at captain. Like I don't think that's possible. But Trey McBride is your number 1 owned captain according to Stochastic. 25% exposure. Fields at 13. So a pretty big stand, almost 2x the field stand on Trey McBride. JSN, they still get a 25% at captain. Fields at 23. So taking the bait on JSN plus a little bit on top. Trey Benson, 13% of captain. Fields at 15. So top 150 lines for Stochastic are getting enough Trey Benson. Definitely fading him a little bit at flex, a little bit at captain. Zach Charbonnet, 7% exposure. Fields at 6. And Cooper Kupp, 5% exposure. Captain. Fields at a rounded up 5. So positive stands on Charbonnet and Kupp at captain, but not too big. Overall, your highest leverage guys in Stochastic's top 150. Cardinals D in the flex, 12% exposure, more than the field. Chad Ryland, 12% exposure, more than the field as well. He's in 35% of lineups. Trey McBride, a captain, 11% more than the field. Jason Myers in the flex, 7% more than the field. He is in 31% of Stochastic's top 150, and the field's at 23% expected ownership. And JSN, 6% more in the flex than the field will have. And those are your top 5 highest leverage guys. Negative leverage guys, they are fading Kyler Murray at captain, barely playing him. Only 1% of Stochastic's top 150 of Kyler at captain. So really feels like ETR and Stochastic disagreeing again. I'm surprised how much they are not in concert this year. Number 2, Marvin Harrison, negative 11% leverage in the flex. You're only playing him 17% of Stochastic's top 150. Fields at 27. Michael Wilson, negative 10% leverage. So again, ETR seems to like Wilson and Harrison more. Stochastic saying no. Kyler Murray in the flex, you're fading him 9% there, less than the field. Only 39% exposure compared to the field's expected 48. And Greg Dortch, a fade here, 4% exposure. Fields at 12. All right, well, let's build a lineup here. Let's see what we can do with this. I don't know what the sim wants from me, to be honest, with what I just saw. But let's try to build it out here. We'll put 35% to first, large contest. Kyler's going to have an interesting October when the Battlefield and Call of Duty drops. Is he in the Battlefield too? I don't know. I remember when I was younger, all the kids make fun of me for eating kimchi. Oh, really? That sucks. Maybe kids make fun of everything, I guess. I don't know. My child is not that age yet. Luke is not at that age where they make fun of him. Though I did get the sense he was a bingo last year for Halloween, and he was still at that point like 2.5. And all the boys were starting to get like more into like, I'm a superhero, I'm whatever. And I feel like he got kind of shamed out of liking Bluey at that time period because the boys were getting more into card stuff, and he was too. But now he likes Bluey again. So I don't know. I think it's possible that kids could be shitty at all ages. We're on that tangent. This is the main slate. Hold on. Showdown. There we go. All right, let's build this shit. Captain. Let's save captain for now. I think Benson makes the lineup. I do think Benson comes with some risk that the workload might just be split more than we'd expect. But I think the fact that he was like a real 1B to James Conner and DeMercado out of the mix, Zonovan Knight not in the picture, I think that means that Benson becomes a bell cow. I got to say, though, like I don't have 100% confidence in this one. I would say I have like 75% confidence in this one, and I'm sure that's what the field has. It might even have more than I do. So that's where Benson becomes a bit of a fragile play. But that said, like I like the upside here. I think he's a really good PPR play. On FanDuel, I have an easier time fading him. Here on DraftKings, I think I want him in the lineup. I want Kyler in. I do think that Stochastic is not going to reward that. Let's go Kyler in the flex for now. Again, he runs. I think he might take more on his back with Connor being out. Who's my captain? My captain. I wish Cooper Kupp were getting decent work because I would put him in a captain right now and take that shot. He's getting 5.3 targets a game. Maybe Harrison has the better shot to make it a captain. Let's try that out. Let's try a Harrison fade here. Let's go for the gusto. We'll fade McBride and JSN. We'll put in Cooper Kupp. If JSN's not getting there, another pass catcher from Seattle probably had a better shot to do it. Is that Horton or is that Barner? Horton's getting 2.7 targets a game. Barner getting 2. Horton playing 27 snaps a game. Barner playing 44. Arizona not giving up a lot of targets to tight end. But I'm going to go Barner here. Leaves us 8,900 for the last spot. Can't afford any of these guys. Oh, we basically have to leave. Wow. So if you play Harrison and Kupp, you just have to play somebody really fucking cheap as a result. Do we play Horton or do we just leave a lot of money on the table and go Charbonnet? This is going to be too much on the table. I'll go Charbonnet here. So 76.2 projection, 3,500 left on the table. For Marvin Harrison at captain, get out of here, tool tip. Marvin Harrison at captain, Trey Benson, Kyler Murray, Cooper Kupp, AJ Barner, Zach Charbonnet. I think it's going to be a little bit too low at projection. Woo! Negative 76% ROI, and this lineup never wins, according to Stochastic. That's hurtful. All right, let's go up from Barner. 6,300, we could get Horton. Let's do that. So we're getting the 2 receivers to try to get leverage on JSN. We got Harrison at captain to get leverage on McBride. Charbonnet just projects well. Let's see. $500 left on the table. Not a lot here. And that's not enough of an ROI. Negative 44% ROI. Fuck me. All right, you know what? Here, let's let Stochastic hand off the wheel. Let's let Stochastic build this shit itself. All right, we're putting Harrison in. And I'll put Benson in as well. Now give me what you got here with 15% randomness on. All right, they're going Barner, JSN. So they're just jamming in JSN. Still jamming in McBride. So really Stochastic wants you to jam in JSN and McBride, it seems. All right, let's sim it. 500 left on the table with this team. Feels like a dupe fest. Maybe Harrison and captain does it. The team, by the way, and that's a negative 42%. Harrison and captain, AJ Barner, JSN, Trey Benson, Trey McBride, Zach Charbonnet. Let's give this one more try here. Let's just let it. All right, here. You build your own fucking lineup. You take it from the top yourself. All right, Myers at Kickins. Myers, no. JSN at captain. Myers, the kicker for Seattle. Seahawks D, Trey Benson, Trey McBride, Zach Charbonnet. So 94 projection, so a much higher projection. The ownership, though, is incredibly high at 207.5. Were you overreacting to Charbonnet being backed up? Of course, it has a really high ROI. Week 2 Walker was so much more efficient compared to him. Yeah, but he wasn't terribly efficient last week when he had the full roll. Like I don't think he put Charbonnet at bay. If you told me it flipped to like 60-40 this week, I would believe it. But it's like it's too deliberate of a usage to give these guys separate drives. I think that's tough. Yeah, Walker's not coming up at all because he's 10-4 and the projections are awful. So like I think playing Walker at captain is the move. Like you capture when he hits. But you got to be prepared to lose that money. But anyway, this lineup here that Stochastic basically did the whole work for. It's shocking to hear. The sim loves its own lineup. But JSN at captain, Jason Myers, Seahawks D, Trey Benson, Trey McBride, Zach Charbonnet, 141% ROI here. I think a kick fest is still, you know what? Let me try one more time. The video's long enough already, but let's go Jason Myers in the flex. Let's go. Oh, why did he come in a captain? Fucking. Okay. Myers, flex. Ryland, flex. Captain PPR scam, JSN. Put in McBride. We got to get McBride. The sim won't let us score any good points if we don't put in McBride. We put in Trey Benson as well. We have 5,100 left. And we go, which D is more opportune to get a takeaway? Who gets more pressure? Arizona, 19% pressure rate. Seattle, 29% pressure rate. That's only blitzing 15% of the time. All right, we'll go Seattle D. So JSN, Jason Myers, Chad Ryland, 2 Treys, Trey McBride, Trey Benson, Seahawks D, leaving 1,100 on the table. Projections a lot better. There we go. 107. All right, so that's it. Sim just wants you to force feed in JSN and McBride. And Benson to a lesser extent. But all right, that's not a bad ROI. We did it, guys. So that's the single lineup sim. I'm going to give you guys 3 takeaways to build unique lineups on the slate in one moment. Before I do that, though, please do subscribe. Please hit the like button down below. It goes a long way for me here. Just one dude showing you my gambling as best I can with the tools, the data that I have access to. And thankfully, it's a lot of stuff here. So even if you watch the videos just to fade me, it would make me sad. But whatever. Do follow your heart here. As long as you get value out of the video, please subscribe down below. Hit the like button. It goes a long way for me here. And I really do appreciate you guys' support lately, hitting that like button so we can keep trying to keep those YouTube oligarchs at bay. Stochastic, 15% off, promo code SPLASH, link down below. Solver, promo code SPLASH as well, link down below. Discord is $5 to join. Just join the channel. You get added automatically to the Discord if you click the link in the description. Great place to be. If you want to talk more football with me, if you want to run lineups by me and shit, you can do that as well. So join the Discord and join the party on the Splash Play Discord. 3 ways to get unique on this one. Number 1, I think that stood out to me. More onslaught builds, 5-1 builds were definitely coming up well in the sim, even with Trey McBride at captain as your lone Cardinal with 5 Seahawks. That was definitely coming up a good amount. I always believe onslaughts are a way to get unique on a slate. And in this one, too, where it's very much like building towards a 50-50, you'll get some 4-2s kind of build on top of that. I think trying to build some onslaughts, really don't have a lean with which team I would do it, but I think it would be Seattle, but I also think people would also, like the general public would take Seattle more in an onslaught because like there's a shot here that James Conner being gone, just like they cripple underneath it. But it's also possible that James Conner being gone, they get together. Like I want to play onslaughts of both teams. If I were to favor one, it'd probably be Seattle, as everybody would. Second way to get unique on the slate. The value guys are not going to get played very much. Elijah Arroyo at about 20%, maybe a little bit overplayed. But your Zonovan Knights, your Weavers, like there's not really in play on the slate. The fact they came up as much as they did on the stochastic sim, I think kind of speaks to number 1, jamming in studs. Number 2, having that salary savings to allow you to do that. And number 3, that it might not take a lot of points at captain if you do cram in the studs with it. That stood out to me because it doesn't happen very often. So I think that's another way to get unique on the slate. And number 3 for me would be, it really is fading JSN McBride. Your projection is going to suffer a lot. But if it happens like Zay Flowers, like your Zay Flowers projection suffered when you didn't play him too on Monday. But if you get production going to the other pass catchers for the team, JSN can fail. Like JSN's rates to me seem unsustainable over the course of a year. But he's doing it. That said, if it trickles down, you get a good Cup day, get a good Horton day with a Cup day, get AJ Barner catching a touchdown or 2 somehow, God forbid. That upsets the apple cart a lot. So I still think JSN McBride, like the best plays in the slate besides Trey Benson. But if you want to get unique right away, you fade one of those guys, 2 of those guys, you're getting off the beaten path. So that's it for this one. Check out the chats one more time here. Nothing else too important here. Appreciate you guys being here and, of course, supporting the show. And again, make sure to gamble responsibly, guys, even though it is always money time here on this channel. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the channel at Splash Play Pod, whether it is on YouTube or on Twitter. Of course, I'll have another video tomorrow for the main slate, 12 p.m., our premium video, the key stats for the week. That's coming up right after that at 1 p.m. So Sunday at 9 a.m., my final takes video. And check out Stochastic not live before lock. That'll be on Sunday. Strategy show today. If you want to check me out, talking with Lofty, it's a little bit different. My takes kind of evolved from that show. But check that out too. Had a good conversation with Lofty, and of course, always enjoy doing those videos. So watch that. I'll see you guys again soon. Enjoy your days. Good luck. Ask me any questions in the Discord. And I said good luck already. So good luck again. Bye-bye.